We're producing an opportunity for artists with no finite number, right? If they can be juried in and they meet the standards of the organization, then why not? This virtual model is something that you can use, and you can feed that, and you can really create something that is an experience, and you don't even have to be in Santa Fe to experience it.
My first vision of you was with a big coffee cup and a bunch of foam.
Well, I kind of feel like I need a glass of wine.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't capture that with my screenshot, and I would put that on the main video.
I could definitely share with you my branding of Coffee with Kim. So are we going to record right now, or how is this working anyways?
Yeah, well, first of all, your audio and your visuals are perfect.
Yay.
So, yay, they're really crisp and clear. So you must have a good camera and good audio and good internet.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you're in Santa Fe, right? So that's never a given. And you're at your home. Is that where you are?
I am. I definitely am at home. Yes.
Yeah, I just did Michael Brown podcast. You've probably met Michael. He's the director at School for Advanced Research, SAR.
No, I've met his staff though. Yes.
Yeah. So we did an interview with him, podcast. So this podcast, just to give you an idea, so it's I've done I think about 115 interviews over the last 3 years, and
Wow.
it's basically about art dealers, art collectors, artists, native artists,
Okay.
Writers, and basically anything that kind of comes through my life is what it is.
Okay.
And I've been going to SWAIA. I guess we could just start our thing.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I do want to know how to say.
Have
I've been saying your last name is Peone, but I don't know if that's correct.
It's actually Peone.
Peone. Okay, so Kim Peone. So we have Kim Peone today. We're just getting introduced right now, and she's the executive director of SWAIA. And you've only been on the job for 3 months?
Yeah, it'll be 3 months tomorrow.
Talking about being thrown into the fire. I mean,
I haven't been burned yet, so that's a good thing.
You will be. Trust me, and it's coming. It's probably coming August 1st when you first launch your virtual,
Or maybe actually August 2nd, right?
Yeah, it's coming though. I know. Well, It's funny. I've been telling a lot of people. I think this will be the first year in 30 years that I've missed going to Indian Market. Right. So it's been a very long time, and I always go to Santa Fe every summer. At least for a month minimum. And I had a gallery there for 20 years on Canyon Road. So it's a very odd thing to do that. And so I thought, well, I still want to go. I just need to be a part of it, and I need to help SWAIA in any way I can. And we thought, you would be a perfect individual to really not only get to know, which is one of the things I really want to accomplish with talking to you, is, find out who you are and what you are and how you got here, but to help all the native artists that are, like everybody, struggling. And, I know very, very well that a lot of these artists, 75% of their entire, take is really through Indian Market. And
Truly.
so, we've got to do our bit as patrons, as dealers, as collectors, to get the word out. And so this will be part of that.
Awesome. I'm excited. Yes.
So you've been on the job for 3 months, and so what date? When is that? Is that March?
It's July. So July 15th. Yes.
And when did you officially start?
It was April 15th.
Oh, wow. So it was already shut down. And so
tomorrow's my probation.
Oh my God. I think you're going to get through it okay.
I hope so.
What amazes me is you came in and basically had to make the biggest decision for Santa Fe maybe in its history.
Probably. It definitely was a intense 2 weeks. I vetted on what to do coming into that with this pandemic, and there was no Indian market, right? So do you want the job? And
Had the
but
decision been made at that time that there was no Indian market?
yes,
Okay, so
yeah,
that took at least that part. You didn't have to make that decision at least.
right,
You just had
right, yeah. I
but
just had to make the decision on whether or not I wanted to walk into this with those very unprecedented circumstances for sure. Yeah.
oh yeah. And what made you do it?
Well, so there were a couple of things. I mean, I was in a waiting place for 8 months, and waiting for that next assignment. So normally I don't take jobs to just take jobs. It really has to be something that has purpose and has meaning for me and
Mhm.
is something that I can truly put myself into and create positive change for an organization. And so that was this scenario. It was something that was needing a visionary and needing someone who had a skill set that could come in and help them pivot during this time, and also just in the sense of having moved to Santa Fe just a year ago and thinking that I had a different opportunity, and that did not come to pass. And then, of course, I think that the other part of that was just, I was born here. My mom and dad were graduates from IAIA, and so Santa Fe Indian Market too was something that
Right.
that I participated in as not only as family but as friends. And so when they offered me the position and had the opportunity to think about it, I said yes, I can do this.
Took a
Yeah.
big gulp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go right.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yes.
so let me get back. Let's start there in the back where you grew up and that kind of, because you have a very interesting history. Now, you're of two nationalities, right? You're of Colville tribe.
Colville Confederated Tribes.
Yeah, and
And
that's in Washington, right? Central North Washington up in that
yep,
area.
yep,
And that
yep.
has what, about 7,000 members or so?
So the Colville Confederated Tribe is interesting. It's a tribal government that represents 12 bands, 12
Hmm.
different bands of natives. And our reservation it's a huge land-based tribe. So it's 1.4 million acres.
Right.
Uh, yes, and I actually that was my last position. I was the CEO slash CFO of a corporation there for 2 years, and I had 12 enterprises that I managed, three
Mm.
casinos, and
Oh my.
I had 5 convenience stores, 3 grocery stores, and I also managed their forestry. And so, as far as harvesting their wood and marketing the wood, those were the enterprises that I managed.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so that's what side of the family is that tribe
So
of?
that would have been my mother's tribe.
That's your mom.
Yep.
And your dad, is he Cherokee?
Yep. So my dad was a member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
Mhm.
And so after we left Santa Fe, that's where our family moved, and that's where I grew up, was in Cherokee, North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I had moved away from Cherokee in 1984 and moved back to Cherokee in 2009 and was the CFO of the tribal government there for 7 years. And I was the chief financial officer. And, we had a budget of 350 million. There were 1,200 employees, and
Wow.
there was just a lot of activity there as
Uh-huh.
far as what I did. Yeah.
And you're also breaking norms too, probably, because being a woman too, I think probably in some of these that you're the first, right? In some of these things.
Yeah, so I was definitely the first CEO of the Colville Tribal Federal Corporation, and then, of course, the first woman here. But I think that my career has definitely been one where I've been a maverick,
Yeah.
in the sense of
Right.
going into these positions. And I think my forte is definitely administration,
Mhm.
and so based around that, then what was the skill set that I had to provide for organizations? And so when I went to work for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, I also managed travel and tourism for a short stint, and then also managed their information technology department, which was huge as well. And so all of those things through the last 10 years, definitely those are skill sets that I brought to SWAIA.
Yeah, which is fantastic. We all need,
Yeah.
yeah, they need it desperately. But so let's get back to your kids'
Yeah.
childhood. So when you were born in Santa Fe, right? And so
Mhm.
what did your parents do? They went to IAIA, right? Were they
Right.
artists, I assume?
Yep. So my dad, I would say that his number one art was music. He actually came to Santa Fe and was studying piano, and he was studying to be a concert pianist. And
Wow.
so I had the pleasure of growing up in a home with Rachmaninoff and Bach and Chopin and all of those things. And so, but he was also a silversmith, and he also did a lot of other very artful things. So it was something that he did all of his life.
And what
My
year?
mom was a painter.
She was a paint. What's her name?
Her name is Annabelle Lazard.
And
Yes.
does she still paint?
So she does. Yeah. And it's so funny because she's like, you need to paint. And I'm like, I don't know how to hold a brush.
Question
And
is, has she applied yet to try to get into SWAIA with her paintings?
yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I think that it's a good thing to definitely take that on and be who I am in it. And if it's bad, it's bad. And if it's good, it's good. But as far as SWAIA is concerned, I think what I bring to them is just truly business acumen.
Yeah.
I'm a businesswoman, and that's how I operate.
Yeah, I can already tell that. I've just met you, but I see it already. I'm already feel thrilled for all the SWAIA members and the native
Mm,
artists that you.
thank you.
So how long were you in Santa Fe as a kid? You were born there and you're,
So yeah, so I actually we actually lived here until I was about 8 years old.
yes.
So during that time, my father, after graduating from IIA and having taken on a family, he really needed to find provision that was sustainable for our family, and so he went to school and became an RN nurse.
Mm.
And so he worked for Indian Health Services here in Santa Fe. And I think he just needed to get home because his parents were getting older, and that's how we ended up back in Cherokee.
And you moved when you were 8.
Yeah.
So that was probably a little traumatic, actually, going from Santa Fe
It was traumatic.
yeah,
It
to
was
Cherokee.
definitely a very pointed time in my life, for
Yeah,
sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And at that point, what did your mom do? Did she continue to paint?
So my mom, she was a housewife, and I think that, for her, she was also just trying to adapt. I think that she never intended to move on to another reservation,
Right.
and having to. I mean, that was a hard adaptation for our
I'm
family.
sure.
Yeah. So it was one that was a good decision, but it had its consequences too, just in reference to how do you cope with that
Right, and
change.
it's not your tribe either.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I've interviewed a lot of artists that have this intertribal, issues that they have to deal with.
Totally.
Yeah, we had Marla Allison on yesterday, and she's Jemez, Hopi, and Laguna, and she grows up in Laguna. And so I'm sure you probably felt some of that as well growing up there, right? I mean, you were, the kid that was not Cherokee, even though you were.
Yeah, even though I was. And no, definitely those things. I always felt growing up that I knew other cultures, but not my own. And so when I went to work for the Colville tribe, that was the first time that I got to live on that reservation, work for my people, and become a part of that community. And I fell in love. It was a really awesome experience that really completed me as a human being. I've been on that journey of identity. I think what you're talking about is identity.
That's right.
And who are we and where do we come from? in just even in these Native communities. And so I had the pleasure of marrying a man who was a member of the Spokane Tribe of Indians. And so we lived on his reservation for 19 years.
Mm.
And so the Spokane tribe, I consider them family, and they'll always be a very beloved community to me and my children, because my children are descendants of Spokane's. And I think I have three. I have three grandchildren who are enrolled with that tribe. So.
And so what do you consider your tribal affiliation? Do you have one that because you grew up, your formative years were in Cherokee, but the years where you really became in touch with who your mother's side was in Washington.
Yeah, I think so. I think that in reference to this whole thing about where are you enrolled
Right.
and what is your blood
Right.
quantum truly
Right.
comes from this federal system that impacts us in a very adverse way. But for me personally, I feel like first and foremost, I'm Native American, right? And I represent every Native American tribe in the United States.
Yes.
But beyond that, I think equally, I'm Colville and I'm Cherokee, and those are the tribes that's what I was born into, and so, yeah.
And how about your kids? What are they? They're
Yes.
different, right?
So my children are all enrolled Colville. But I have grandkids because of just these laws that we are subjected to by tribal governments. They're all very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I have my kids, when they had their children, they couldn't be enrolled in Colville unless they had married a Colville. And so I have some grandchildren who are enrolled Cherokee. I have some grandchildren who are enrolled Spokane, just based on those tribal laws. And so
Wow.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And that's impactful too, in different ways, because that's your identity, right? Whether you want it or not, I grew up in New Mexico. I look at myself as New Mexican. I live in Arizona. I have for a long time, but if you ask me where I'm from, I'm New Mexican. So, so they have.
What was interesting is just when I took the job and when I came here, just the heartfelt welcome home was so impactful to me. Like, it was the first time in my entire life that I actually had this very welcoming and warming welcome home. And it still chokes me up to this day, just to know that regardless of where I'm employed or what I'm doing, that New Mexicans were like, one of ours have come back.
That's
and
right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's true. That's how we do feel.
Yeah.
You were born in Santa Fe, you're a New Mexican, you grew up there partly, and now you'll spend the last most important part of your life, hopefully leading Indian market as well.
Yeah.
So when you graduate from high school, what was your plans at that time? You have parents that were artists, so they were probably, okay, either, yes, we'd love you to be an artist, or hell no, you don't need to be an artist. It's too tough a road.
Well, so my father and mother were very adamant about education, and you need to go to school, Kim, you need to get a 4-year degree. And I didn't really know what that meant, other than that had been embedded into my brain. And so my senior year in high school, I had decided to move. My senior year, I decided to remove myself from an Indian school to a non-Indian school in North Carolina. And when I did that, it was so impactful to me. Like, I was jolted because I was trying to prepare myself to go to college, and I was failing some classes and I didn't know what to do. And so my senior year, I actually moved from North Carolina to Washington State, where my mom lived. And my dad took me to the Greyhound bus, and I had these bags, and off I went on a 4-day journey on this Greyhound bus to Spokane, Washington. And I actually graduated from high school from a 4A school. Like, I went from a very small school to a 4A school.
Right.
And it was a scenario where they worked with me and created a successful environment and experience for me. And then right off the heels of that, I was in college and graduated 4 years later with a degree in business administration. Was the first of my generation on both sides of my family. So
Get a
it was
degree.
big to do.
Oh yeah, I know. How many kids are in the family?
So I have 2 sisters and an adopted brother.
Uh-huh. And were you
Yeah,
the oldest, or where do you fall in
I
that
was
group?
the oldest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, so no pressure there.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm
it
the
is.
oldest.
Yeah. And the pressure would be there. I mean, your parents want you to get an education. They want you to succeed. Did
Yes.
they want you to get off the reservation? Was that a part of, or just
No,
the opposite, come back home and give back to the reservation?
help our people. That was always their speech to me is go and get an education and help your people, Kim. And so, yeah, my dad always wanted me to be a lawyer. And now that I'm in hindsight and I know who I am, I would have been a horrible lawyer. So,
That's good
but
you didn't go there.
yeah,
And so when you graduated from that high school, and that was in Spokane?
yeah.
Yeah. Where did you go to college?
So I ended up going to a college just 20 miles from Spokane. It was Eastern Washington University. And that was where I met my husband. And so we went on that journey together. And so I got a degree in marketing, and came out of college with all of these expectations of what I was going to be. And like you were asking, like, what were you going to be when you grow up? And I could not land anything in that field. I always ended up in finance. And so in 2002, I went back to school and graduated with a second degree in accounting, just so that I had the degree that was supporting the skill set that I had. And that was really when my career took off, because shortly thereafter, I became the CFO of a major organization, and really did enter into my purpose and my calling in life. And so it's been a flow since.
And was that in Cheyenne that you did that?
In Cherokee.
I mean, in Cherokee, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
In
your first,
Cherokee.
yeah, that was your first. And so you literally went back, you were doing accounting and financing, but
Yep.
you solidified it with a degree. And then you
Yeah.
went back to Cherokee and you were the CFO.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did that go? What was that like? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot of
So
responsibility.
that was right on the heels of the Great Recession, right? I mean,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
the beginning of all of us really trying to reel in on how we were going to, again, it was another pivot in our country. And so it was an opportunity for me to dive in and come up with some innovative ways to overcome budget shortcomings. I mean, we were, and how do you do that without laying people off? And how do you do that when, tribes have priorities and they have their sacred cows?
Right.
But no, we were able to come through that. And since that time, I mean, we were innovative, we were progressive. We were building economies for the tribe. We were creating efficiencies for the tribe, and we were increasing those net assets. And so by the time I left for that organization, it was a very positive experience. And also that tribe gave me a platform. I was able to be the treasurer of the Native American Financial Officers Association for 4 years. So I got to network with a lot of tribes, a lot of CFOs, a lot of money managers, accountants, bankers. I mean, so that was a nice experience for me. We also did a lot of lobbying in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so that was just a great experience.
Yeah, you were basically working as a major corporation CFO.
Totally.
And probably had access to a lot of people that, other companies even of that size would never get to because of, yeah, that's very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So I bet that matured you very quickly.
It matured me, and I came out of it a little bruised. I mean, for sure. And, I think that, when we work for Native American tribes, that's the hardest work anybody will do, because you are everything for everybody in that environment. And so we had hospitals, we had casinos, we had a school district, we had we had a major broadband company, a telecommunications company, 400 miles of broadband, or a fiber for
Yeah.
broadband. And so, we were just in all kinds of stuff. And so being able to see that from a big picture,
Right.
but also be able to go into the detail and develop strategies and move a tribe forward, that was again, I think that just was something that I could do. And we were able to do it as a team. I was never doing that alone. It was always with some visionary, the chief being the visionary and
Right.
saying yes. And then taking a pulse on the risk. I always tell people, what is your risk tolerance? Because if we can gauge your risk tolerance, that gauges the return that you're willing to get based on the risk that you're willing to take.
Yes, that's 100% correct. And
Yeah.
you're really basically acting as a GE, you're a CEO of GE, because you've got gaming, probably forestry, broad
Yes.
technology, banking, I'm sure, all the school systems. That's
Yep.
pretty incredible that you had to, manage all those disparate type of business, because they all have their issues, and they're all unique issues to that business.
Right.
So, and
So
then,
the finance was the driving force behind that, right? So everybody wants money. And
right.
so you got to go in and evaluate those organizations. And for me, it was always about what are the outcomes, and then what's the return on our investment. So if you're asking for $1 million from the tribe for your organization, what is the return on that investment? What's the outcomes? And then how do we measure those for success? And so it was a methodology that we used, and that was very helpful for us in responding to the needs of all of those organizations at that time.
Yeah, it's objective criteria. You're going on ROI.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's a very good way to do it on any business, clearly.
That's true. And that's where we're at with SWAIA as well.
Yeah. And I want to
Those,
get there, but I want to go to the next jump, because you went from that back
mhm.
to the West to Washington, which
Yeah.
sounds like it was even maybe a bigger job in some respects.
It was, in the sense that the organization was structured different. So the Eastern Band was a 3-branch government. So you had executive branch, legislative branch, and your judicial branch.
Mhm.
But this particular tribe, it was basically a tribal council of 14 members. And the corporation that I worked for was separated, but also was very much accountable to the governing body. And so that created its challenges for sure. And then I had a board of 5. So the board was just an extension of tribal council. So politics, everything was just this very, very complicated. I think it was a very complicated way of doing business. But no, truly, I was on a board for 4 years for that tribe before I became their CEO. And that was an ask. And so I committed to 2 years for that job. And having been a board member, it was just a scenario where they needed a lot of help. They needed structure. They needed infrastructure from a business perspective, like the accounting and your IT and, the systems that are in the enterprises and connecting those dots, and then internal controls, and even corporate culture was that was my big to do, is just trying to change the culture of the organization
That's a
so
hard thing
that,
to do.
yes. And I did that through a rebranding. So I had taken on a huge rebranding for the corporation, and was really using that rebranding to talk about adaptive leadership, talk about emotional intelligence, talk about systemic problems and how do we overcome them. And so I always had to push that up to the board and up to tribal council to try to catch that vision. And had they caught it, I probably would have renewed my contract with them.
Mhm.
But it was a very, very difficult thing for them to embrace, is that structure was necessary, and just changing how we do business. Accountability, huge on accountability.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But success was that in the 1 full year that I was there, I was able to grow the revenue for the corporation by 30 million.
Wow.
So yeah, and with no additional enterprises, just fixing what was there and
Waste.
making it efficient.
Yeah.
Yes.
Getting rid of
Dirt
it.
is in the details. I always say that. Dirt is in the details.
Yes, it's true. Well, and that's going to be, I think, critical for SWAIA. I mean, SWAIA has gone, and I don't have to tell you, you did the research before you ever signed on, has gone through a lot of directors, a
Yeah.
lot of strife on many levels. We read about
Yeah.
it, in
Yeah.
the newspaper from, certain artists are not allowed to be in anymore. They have, all these different components.
Right.
And it strikes me a lot of the issues that you're going to have to deal with are exactly like the ones you just left, with this cultural structure that you're going to have to change, rebrand, basically. I think you do need to rebrand. I don't know how you see that, though.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely corporate culture. I think that, but I also think that it's a scenario where I'm telling you, this is not an easy organization to be managing just from a business acumen perspective. I mean, it was so funny before this interview. I was asking one of my staff, okay, now what is this again? And what's the objective? And because I said, I sometimes lose who I am. Am I an accountant today, or am I a fundraiser, or am I developing some sort of technology? I mean, so I definitely have to shift myself in order to be responsive and be responsible in those arenas. And so all I have to say is, without really degrading anybody, this is a tough job for anybody to take on, and to be what you need to be. It's about vision and foresight, and really being and staying in your lane, and just do what you need to do. And so I tell my staff that, like, if we can just stay in our lane and do what we need to do, we can have the capacity to provide the technical support for that, which we've got at this moment in time. But also, I think that's important for our board, is that they have their role and they have their responsibility. And then me, as the executive director, I have my role and my responsibility. And as long as we stay in that and be partners, and be gentle, but also be fierce. I think we have to be fierce at this moment in time in reference to pivoting. And this is a time for many, many, many organizations where the ones who've been innovative and have been risk takers will rise to the top.
That's right.
And those that do not will not rise to the top. And the SWAIA board, they took the charge, and they said, okay. And so I have to give them kudos for that.
And the big pivot for this year is canceling the market. That was the first decision that they had to, which was the only decision, clearly, especially for Native people. You can't expose them to diseases and send them across the country back to their reservations and pueblos and homes and elders and all that. We've seen what happened in Navajo lands right now. It's just a decimation. And also, you have to embrace technology like you've never embraced it before. And so tell us about that, because I think this is a very exciting part of what's going on with SWAIA, and one of the things I really want people to embrace that are listening to this podcast.
Yeah. So, the staff and the board had already vetted what a possible virtual Indian market would look like through a proposal that they had received from the Clark Hewlings Fund. So they were already trying to shop it out, like, what would this look like? And that's a challenge, because I think that when we discuss, especially now that we've been in it for 3 months, what is virtual? And I think virtual means many things to many people, and it's not cookie cutter. And so based on this, this proposal, I just came in and evaluated what was being suggested, and quickly went through the organization and was pulling information from the staff, pulling information from the board, and pulling information from Clark Hulings in reference to the opportunity, because that's what it was. This was all opportunity. And and it probably took me about 2 weeks to vet that. And then boom, it was like, yes, we need to do this. I like this company. I like what they're offering us as far as, and it was more than just creating a virtual website. They have come along, Clark Hulings, they have come alongside us in the sense of, the marketing, the technology, the fundraising, the education for our artists. All of those components were there. And so truly, when making the decision to move forward with the virtual Indian market, I felt like it brought this organization in alignment with their mission. And so now the mission statement is, we're living it, we're executing it, we're beginning to see what that looks like, and that's exciting for us. So the components of it are very different than just a 2D flat form. This is really establishing a platform that allows us to do events, calendar of events, but in the process of building those events, we had to revisit our membership and what does that look like, and how do we expand that membership based on what we can offer. Foundations, what is it that we're creating? And it's a technology, it's economic development, it's travel and tourism, and it's marketing. It's all of those things encompassed in one initiative.
Yes, and arts as well.
And it's all supporting our arts, and so our artists. And so I always tell people that component, our artists and the arts and the economic development, that's our true north.
And so where does the money, what are your big fundraiser? How do you get your money normally? I mean, you have this one huge show every year, then you have winter market as well. But does it mainly come from memberships, booth fees, and fundraising events for SWAIA, where artists donate pieces and they sell them and the funds go to SWAIA? Is that pretty much
so the revenue streams were multifolded. There were multiple revenue streams. So when they canceled Indian market, they lost 90% of their revenue just like that. It was gone. And so the majority was just booths, memberships, sponsorships, all of those things. But because of what you had talked about earlier in reference to some of the crunchiness that has been experienced through past performance, has made some of those areas very challenging. And so in that means that there are some olive branches that have to be offered, and there has to be some forming of an accountability in what we're doing. And then what's the sustainability? At the end of the day, I think that the most people are like, how is SWAIA a sustainable nonprofit? What's that model? And so the virtual Indian market is that sustainable model for us.
Yes, and it opens up all sorts of new platforms too.
It's unlimited because it's all virtual.
That's right. So you could have, instead of 500 or so artists, you could have 10,000 if you want. I mean, if they all qualify, they may not get the space on the Plaza, but they might get a space on the back end of the platform where they can get recognition, traction, and it gives you a loud microphone for Native causes, for research, for education, for development,
all of that.
So you can
Oh,
make it into
yeah.
a portal. Yeah, I mean, that could be what SWAIA truly is.
Well, so that is our model, right? I mean, so that's
Yeah,
that's what we're producing, is we're producing an opportunity for artists with no finite number, right? If they are can be juried in and they meet the standards of the organization, then why not? And I always say this corporate business model will never change, but this virtual model is something that you can use, and you can feed that, and you can really create something that is an experience, and you don't even have to be in Santa Fe to experience it.
that's right. And even better yet, you can be somewhere else and experience Santa Fe in a way
Yeah.
that you couldn't have done before. And I
Yes.
always tell people that if there's one thing on your bucket list to go do, it's always Indian Market. You have to do it. And I do. I believe it's something that has to be
I agree.
experienced, and I've gone to like 30 of them. In fact, I did
Yeah.
a podcast last year. I went around to the different booths and interviewed native artists and talked to them about it. And you guys are welcome to use that podcast. That's the only podcast we have of 2019, I think of it.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
I will take you up on that
yeah,
offer.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That would be wonderful.
Because it gives you a sense of what it is and what it's all about, and talking to those artists that were there just a year ago.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to, I think you don't want to lose that sense. You want to add this other component to the mix, which is this
Right.
wonderful virtual aspect, which I think the pandemic gives you that ability to pivot and pivot hard and strong with less cultural issues, as far as people that are embedded in the SWAIA going, well, we haven't done it this way. Well, you have to do it this way.
Right.
I don't know if you have a choice but to embrace this.
Yeah, no, I mean, otherwise, unfortunately, if they had not gone with a virtual Indian market, then we go home. Like I have nothing to offer you from a business perspective. And truly, that's where we were in April as far as the organization. So it was one where, SWAIA was taking a chance with me, and I was taking a chance with them. And so we just came, we came to some real good agreements on, we don't know where this is going to take us, and what's going to be in the future for SWAIA in reference to this year. And so now that I'm here 3 months later, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this virtual Indian market. I'm excited for our artists. We have 433 artists who have signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a soft close, because I think that, this venture is a scary venture for any artist who's never been online before.
Sure.
Have used markets as a means for their own economy and paying their bills.
Right.
But what we're offering them is an online presence, and we are going to use our brand and our marketing on their behalf so that they will be successful in that, and simultaneously teaching them about marketing and branding, and what are the things that they can do and internalize in their business as far as diversification, and really bringing them viable solutions to this very unfortunate time that we're in.
Yeah. And so will you do it as a part of it as a auction part, where you have a certain amount is auction, and then another part that's kind of more of a buy it from the artist type of thing? Is that how this will be structured?
Yeah. So the best way that I can explain it is everything is centered at SWAIA's website. So that's where all the activities take place, and that's where the architecture of the IT pieces reside. But as far as the execution, the plan is to create activities on the perimeter. And so that would be silent auction, live auction, gala, fashion show, concert, all of those things. But really what all of those things do is brings us to that place where we can drive people to our artists marketplace, which we contracted with a company called ArtSpan, or negotiated with ArtSpan to help us help our artists. So our artists simultaneously, they're making their art, but they're also building their websites. And so, and we're providing the education and training and all of the things that they need to do that. And so as you have all of these activities going on, it really is pointing our user journey to our artists' websites.
Wow. And so when you do, yeah, it's fantastic. And the thought of trying to develop that many 400 websites or whatever.
So it's probably less than that. It's probably more like
250.
300, because we have roughly, 120 artists who already had websites.
Right.
And so some of them had the e-commerce component attached to those websites. Some of them did not.
Right.
And so, and so we're just, we were not saying you needed to be here in order to be a part of this. We're going to meet our artists where they are. And so we were talking before this podcast about Coffee with Kim. Well, Coffee with Kim is where I can interview artists who already have websites and really talk about, first of all, who they are, what's your art, and just your journey and your story regarding that. But then what was your journey regarding business? And what is that experience that they have that we can use to encourage any artist who is nervous about becoming an online artist and really creating a business in that
it's
venue.
really hard for them too. It's really hard for Native artists. I still see it. I mean, because I buy from a lot of silversmiths, and and I see how they struggle, and how sometimes they just show up and I'm here, and it's like without checking to see if I need anything or whatever. I mean, I always buy anyway, but I see those business acumen things that could really be helpful, and if they can have a website, assuming they have any kind of broadband, which is not always a good assumption on some of these places.
Right.
But it really opens the world for them in a different way that they could. And SWAIA definitely could be that voice, that amplifier for their sales, which is, I know for sure, is desperately needed, because I see it. I deal with artists, I buy from artists, and I know the struggles that they have to go through. And that's one of the great things about Indian Market, is they actually have the one opportunity of the year that they get to sell retail. They get to sell directly to the client, the customer, and then not having to go through a dealer or a middleman or another middleman or a jobber or whatever.
Right.
And I have always tried not to buy at Indian Market the first day and let them sell. And then toward the end, I can come and say, okay, let's see what we have and we can talk now, because I want artists to get the most they can when they have that opportunity. And of course, now you have this virtual where we'll do it. And now that opens August 1st. Is that when you start?
So it opens August 1st. That's when we go online, and it'll be for the entire month of August.
Mm-hmm.
And so our tagline is remember, relive, and reimagine. And so even like when you're offering your podcast from last year, it's a relive component. Like that's just right in line with what we're talking about. Our remember is that we're really wanting to capture the history of SWAIA, and that will be the segue for us for our centennial, because all of the things that we're producing and creating is definitely that segue for us in 2022 when we have our centennial.
Yeah, this is number 99, right? It would have been.
It would have been, yes.
So you'll put that off to next
98 and a half. Yep. And it's a big half.
It is a big half. But it's, again, as you say, and I hadn't even thought of it, but it's a great way to lead up to 2022.
Yes. That was the objective for sure. That was one of my objectives.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural. And it also gives you another year to try to get through the pandemic and all the effects and the lack of tourists, because next year is going to be also an issue. People don't want to travel or be in big crowds, and anybody who's been to Indian Market knows they're big crowds.
Yes.
So
the other thing I just want to share with you too is, we also have what we're saying is beyond Indian Market. And so What does that mean? Well, this platform's not going away August 31st.
Right.
I'm already starting to program what we're going to do in September. And so one of my ideas for September is to have a live cookbook. And I would love to feature native chefs, and be able to use that as a tagline. Again, just creating activity in the perimeter to drive people to our artists' websites. And I think that, food, we love food, but we can also see food from the aspect of art. I think that as far as an organization, this definitely gives us an opportunity to expand our membership, expand our sponsorship, and really develop something that's unique and is interesting to the world.
Yeah, no, it will be. Yeah, it would be very interesting to watch your website and to see how it blows up with numbers and things, as
Yeah,
far as,
I'm
I mean,
excited.
yeah. And of course, that's where I'm sure you're going to take a lot of your energy to really stay on top of the website, because now that
It's
becomes
even bigger than that. It's about data analytics for me.
yes,
So
yes.
I just come from, I also was a business partner with IBM, sold storage and backup and recovery. And that was during the era of the cloud when everybody was like, ooh, the cloud. And and now here we are using the cloud, right?
Yeah.
And so definitely this is just a real pivot for SWAIA, where data tells us everything, right? And that's how we make decisions, is based on data.
Yep. And see, that's why I think you're exactly the right person at the right time, because you're
Mhm.
numbers driven. You come from an analytical background. You can look at these ROIs of what's going on and really look at where what the numbers show. Because as you grow as a website, as a portal, really, the portal to Native American arts, really,
Yes,
that gains you power, traction, and everything, right?
right. That's very true. Yeah, yeah.
So, and when will the first dances and the fashion show and all that kind of stuff, will those be spread out? And can we find those at SWAIA's website right now?
No, so we are definitely we've been in the place of creating the infrastructure, and we've had to use um, I think right now I have 5 different IT vendors in reference to this platform. So based on that technology and setting it in place, and so it's like a puzzle.
Yes.
And so we're there, like we feel like we're finally there as far as having that locked in. Now they're starting to develop the calendar of events and
Mm.
starting to just be able to capture that and gather it. So there's definitely some marquee events that are going to be occurring around the actual Indie Mark weekend. For example, our fashion show and our gala. And so, but as those calendars start to get solidified, then we will begin to share them on the website. But we're still in that development stage, and yeah, the pressure cooker is on, right? I mean, we
Yeah,
are in the
sure.
wine press at this moment. And so it's been a challenge for us as a team. We've just tried to encourage one another, but we are definitely in a very high
Mhm.
pressured moment.
Yeah, you have 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, we do. Yeah, so we had one more training today for our artists, and that was a marketing component for them. So those websites are being developed, and they know to be ready by August 1st. And so what we're doing right now is my life. I spend a lot of time in front of the
Computer.
computer on Zoom. I gotta go zooming.
Well, you're
So
a natural, I can tell.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that was not the case when I took the job. I definitely had to come out of my shell in reference to being a public figure
Yeah,
and
you
being
are. You're a big time public figure, especially
yeah,
in Santa
did not
Fe. Really.
expect that.
Yep.
Did not expect that at all. I
Yep.
was an introvert. I was an accountant. And I just
Yeah.
behind the desk doing my
Yeah.
thing.
But
So
but that's okay. We need the introverts. I'm an introvert, believe it or not. So
Yeah.
we need those people that, have an analytical mind, but also can embrace the creative and can get out and do what you're doing. You're a natural, I can tell you, at, getting the word out. And I already can tell that, the helm of SWAIA is under the right hands for sure.
Thank
I'm
you.
very excited. I was really interested to meet you because I
Oh,
wanted to see, who's going to run this show, because I've watched it over the years and some have not done as well. And,
yeah. It's a
it's,
tough job.
it's a tough job.
Yeah, it's a tough job, and you got to have a thick skin, and you got to let that criticism roll off like water on a duck, and you got to know who you are, and
Yeah.
you've got to be convicted in what you do, and you got to do it for the right reasons. And just as I'm sitting here giving you my story, and giving you my heart, I feel like that's a true representation of my artists, is that they have a story, and they create something that that comes from the heart. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting to me.
Yeah. Not only the heart, but I think it comes from the culture too. It goes deeper
Oh,
than the heart,
yes. Yeah,
it has a long history,
right,
and that makes it even more, I think, deep and special and spiritual, and and it comes across. I don't care if it's a little Pueblo pot or a major piece of artwork. That they all were done with history, culture, love, creativity, and artistic merit. And
right.
that's why I always love going to Indian Market, just to see what's out there, see how people develop, what's going on. And so this year we'll get to do it virtually. Are you guys going to do prizes like like best of show and all that? How's that going to work?
So we chose not to do an exact rendition of Best of Show. It's just something that's very it's very sacred to that artist process of
Right.
the recognition, and just the whole thing. And so we had to reinvent that piece. I think that was the hardest piece for me, because I'd never participated at um, a gala and the Best of Show. I conceptually had a very difficult time around that, but we are having virtual awards, and so the artists are going to be able to compete in their classes. And so we're just calling it special awards. And then we also have 4 unique special awards. Well, yeah, 4. So we have the ornate mask, and then we have um, solidarity in our current times. And then I'm doing one. I sponsored a special award, and it's honoring your mother and your father.
Nice.
And then we have People's Choice. And so there'll definitely be those events. And that will be the gala event that we do.
And how will those awards, will there be virtual judges that look at the things and come up with that?
Yeah, so the first, I can only explain it as a tier approach. So that first tier, that judging will all be done virtually, using our juried software to do that. And so once those pieces are chosen, then they will be brought to Santa Fe so that they can be judged on person, so that there's
Oh,
some
nice.
integrity in that.
Right, right, right.
And then there will be the best of those categories. And then there will be one grand virtual award that's given.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, if I was in Santa Fe this summer, I would be happy to volunteer to be a
Well,
judge. I've
so
judged in the past.
yeah. Well, you're going to have to join us virtually. So our virtual gala is actually going to be in a 3D platform, and we have to go in as avatars.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And
So,
is that going to be like the Friday, the third weekend of August Friday? Are they going to keep that?
you're asking me, let's see.
I only say that because we always have Indian Market on the third weekend of August, and the gala is usually right in that time frame.
I'm not going to give you the day.
Yeah,
I don't.
well, things can change. It's fluid.
Well, it is fluid, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like, when you hire these tech people to come in and help you with not only the architecture of what that's going to look like, but then the creativity of
Okay.
it, and got all these third parties in that. It's a very difficult thing to nail. And as a matter of fact, we had a 2-hour meeting today on that very subject as far as our gala and that technology. And so
Yeah.
we're in a mad race till the end of the week on nailing all of that.
Yeah, when they told me, I don't forget where I read it, or somebody told me they were going to do a virtual Indian market, I thought, oh my God, what a monumental task to try to arrange it and make it happen.
Yeah.
Because I know what is involved in tech. I mean, I've been on the websites. Our website's been up since 1996, so I know the huge efforts that you have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah. And there will be mistakes.
yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
we're not going to be able to, okay, I'm not going to speak death into this. I mean, I want a home run,
Right.
right? But at the same time, I'm being realistic in it. And, you know, I just hope that people have fun and they see what we're developing
Right.
and find value in that. And
Yes.
in that value, support us.
Yes. I think you're going to be hugely successful, actually. I do. I think the word's going to get out. I think the word is getting out, and people
Yeah.
like myself are going to do our job. And I think people are going to want to come and support artists that need to be supported.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
every artist that's on this virtual, platform for Indian market is going to be very happily surprised by what's going to come from it. I
Yeah.
really feel that strongly, even if you do have the hiccups and all that, and they're going to be there.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
We're all on that virtual journey right now, aren't we? I mean,
Yep.
we all are. That's where we're finding our human touch, right? And so, and in businesses, I mean, I just, having been in the business world, and I have my own community, and in the business world, there is definitely a shift occurring right now, and I don't think we're done. I think that
No, we're not.
yeah, it's going to continue to evolve. Whatever is evolving is evolving.
Yeah, I mean, I'm launching my first online auction on July 26th, and it was like, okay, I have to do more. I can't just rely only on my website and only on
Yes,
my email blasts. I have to have other venues that are,
yes.
and
Well, you can cross market with us.
oh,
Let's
I
have a
plan
conversation offline and
on.
definitely talk about that, because that's what we're
Yeah,
doing. We're forging relationships with companies, with organizations, with individuals. I mean, entrepreneurs. This is an inclusive event for us where we want. I mean, truly, that's the mission, right? Is to develop partnerships. In
right.
SWAIA's mission, it says that, and so that's what we're doing. Is we're forging those relationships and those partnerships with a vast majority of people. We're not being exclusive at all in that model.
Well, I think it's smart. It helps build the brand. It helps support the organization. And if it's good for everyone, and I'm definitely interested in talking to you about that later
Yes.
offline. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's a natural fit for
Right.
somebody like myself who believes in the internet and this is the way things are going to go on. And
Right.
I think it will be a great hit.
We're
I think
excited.
I'm really excited I got to speak to you and talk to you. And SWAIA, as I can tell you, is in extremely good hands. And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're gonna do well. You're a Santa Fean too.
I'm a Santa Fean, and I'm proud of that for sure. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here, and I love it here. And this has been a good experience for me for sure.
And so give us all the ways they can get a hold, people can find the website. It's swaya.org.
It's SWAIA.org, and so that's where we're doing a lot of our community. That's the majority of our communication as far as where we're at and next steps. But definitely, we have a presence on Facebook, on Instagram, and so yeah, we're just and we're for me. I mean, I meet tons of people a day outside of the development of this virtual Indian market. Is just trying to get people to understand the vision of what we're doing, and so there is momentum. I won't disagree with that. There is so much momentum behind this beyond what I imagined, and it continues to be so. So
And when you're
I would,
successful, it'll be easier to push it to the next level, I think.
yeah, yeah,
And
for
I do
sure.
think it is going to be successful. I do. I really strongly believe it's going to be quite successful.
Yeah, I
And
do too. I definitely have. I have no, I, I have trepidation, but I don't think that what we've done is a good decision, and what we're building is fantastic, and it is sustainable, and it will take us into the next century.
Yep. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate your taking the
Yeah.
time because I know you're under the gun. I can't even imagine. I'm so happy I'm not in your shoes. I would be just going crazy.
Lots of green tea.
Yeah, right. I've got my green tea right here too, but yeah, I mean, and green chili, but my God, it's really, you've got your hands full, but you're clearly the right person at the right time for
Thank you.
SWAIA. And I look
Thank you.
forward to hearing about your successes. We'll put it out there. And then I'll email you and we'll talk some more about other
you.
things. And I'll send you some links and things for things that you're welcome to use. And we're going to put this on our website and really make sure people see it and do it. And it'll go up very soon because we want people to get registered, right? They have to probably get registered, right?
Well, so how we're doing this is actually, so when I was talking about the membership tiers, you actually have to come in as a member.
Yes.
And so we have a lapis membership that's very inexpensive. And so we're just again trying to create something where they can be a part of it as opposed to just buying a ticket, come in, go out. That was not our vision for this. And so and that's a very easy thing to do. You just go on to SWAIA website and you become a member. And so, yeah.
So go to the SWAIA.org and it'll be under membership. Buy a membership, then you're able to go to all the virtual events. You're able to.
Not all of them. So there's a tiered. It's a tiered thing. So I think that to be able to be a part of all of the virtual events, that membership is like 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and then what's the one to just be able to get in and
just to get in, I think it's 25.
Yeah. So for $25, which is to a nonprofit organization that helps.
I think you get to go to a silent auction and
Yes.
you get to go in and explore it. And I think that has been a very popular membership for us because I think that people are trying to gain understanding. And do I want to spend more money in reference to the whole experience? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll also make sure that gets out the word on our website as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right.
And we will keep in touch for sure.
That sounds awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. Have a great day.
I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yes. Yes. Coffee with Kim.
I will do it.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We need your support for the Medicine Man Gallery channel, so make sure to click the subscribe button and tap the little bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, which we do every morning on Wednesday and Friday. See you soon.